Let me come up here and make sure. Okay. There we go. Looks like we're coming through okay. Let me go to chat.
Yeah, I can see you live.
All right. I didn't put a thumbnail. I probably should for YouTube, but I get so lazy sometimes. I was taking care of the little ones, so I was just like, my wife
Very
literally
nice.
had to take her to gymnastics, so I was like, all right, well, I get a breather now. I get to actually do my stream, because if she wasn't going to
Yeah,
do that, then I wasn't going to be able to stream. So, it is
very
what it
nice.
is.
I see myself mirrored on the stream, but okay.
Oh, mirrored.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. No, on mine, well, at least on the 1v1 that I have, like, you're the way I'm looking at you right
yeah,
now.
but on stream, I'm, like, mirrored.
Interesting.
Like, in this
Okay.
in this video ninja, it's fine, but not.
Okay. Let me see. Is that better on stream?
Yep, yep, exactly. No,
Oh,
it's the same.
okay. Perfect. All right. Well, before this is kind of like a pre-show, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
guys, that are going to be start coming in, they'll start chatting or whatever, but um I guess like we'll get into like, why did you start making Ashes of Creation content recently?
So, basically, I used to be a content creator for New World,
Okay.
uh, like, about 2.5 years ago, like, a few months after the release. That's when I started. But the reason why I started it back then is because I've done and achieved everything in New World, and but I kind of still liked the game. So I was
Okay.
like, what else can I do? Like, how can I entertain myself? And I was like, well, maybe I should start making videos. And I was doing that for a couple of months. And um, the thing is, it was too late to start because if I wanted to, do that properly, I was supposed to start like earlier, like before the release, during beta,
Hmm.
or then, because that's when the hype was. But anyway, I managed to get like 3.5K subs or something. Um, it was fun, but then I had to stop it for the obvious reasons.
Right.
IRL, yeah,
Gotcha.
because there were like a bit more important things to worry about at that moment of time.
Right.
So yeah, and now I found out about Ashes of Creation. It was shortly after the first alpha, and I was like, ah, damn it! I wish I didn't miss it. And I started following it, and then I'm like, well, it looks like a game that will that will ruin my life. No, that will, you know,
At least we hope,
uh,
right?
yeah, of course, of course. That I It looks like a game where I can possibly spend, a couple of years of my life. So I started following it, and I was like, then maybe I should start making videos as well about it
Hmm.
because, like, why not? I like the game. I enjoy the game. There's still going to be alpha. There's going to be, a lot of time for making content. And why not? That's something I like because, like, IRL, I'm pretty, introverted, and I really choose people that I communicate with very carefully.
Right.
But I don't mind interacting with people, through the screen.
Right. And I think honestly, a lot of my WoW friends were the exact same way. Super social in game, not so much in real life. And I
Yep.
would have not have known, because it's like, well, dude, you're so like talkative in Discord, or even back then when it was Ventrilo, and we talk about anime, talk about movies, talk about all this stuff, and just like a really good back and forth. And then because I've actually met a lot of the people that I used to raid with in World of Warcraft. I traveled like the 27 states here in the US, and so like anytime I went to a state where a guildie was from, I would try my best to like meet up with them. And it was really funny how sometimes like I'd go to like Wendy's or whatever with like a buddy of mine, and they're like super quiet, and I'm like, are you all right? Like, yeah, I
No.
usually don't eat inside. And I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, just take it to go. Like, I don't like being out. We're like, oh, okay,
Fair
sorry.
enough. Yeah, I understand that. Like, I don't have any problems with that. I mean,
Right.
I can find, a common language with people, no big deal, but it's just not there's not that many people who are, you know, with that are, like, worth of your time, and it doesn't mean that they are, like, there's something wrong with them
Right.
or they are bad, but your time is limited and it's valuable,
Oh, 100%.
so you have to choose carefully.
100%. Wizzy, yes, we do fear daylight sometimes. Thank you so much for coming on this Friday, Wizzy. I hope you're having a great day. But Flanker, dude, I also want to thank you too, dude. You're literally like in a huge hour difference compared to where I am right now. It is very early in the morning where you are. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and just having a dialogue and a discussion with me on the 1v1. I think it's gonna be a really great conversation coming up soon.
Thank thank you for thank you for having me.
So I guess like, the whole Ashes thing, like I was under the assumption when I first saw Ashes that this was going to be a game that was just going to dominate the MMORPG world. And I think at that time it's because I was so negative in World of Warcraft. The MMORPG market back in like 2019, 2020 was, at least in the WoW community, it was dying, and I think people in the MMO genre feels that, because right now people are game hopping like crazy just to have something to play. Like my boy Nice, he's a New World gamer. He plays New World all the time, but he goes back to Elder Scrolls and then he's been trying other games, right? Because it's like most MMOs now give like almost spoon feed you content and expect for that spoon to feed you for the next 3 or 4 months until we give you the next spoonful. And it feels so like starvation mode. Like we're literally, you know, um fasting to the next patch. You know what I mean?
That
It's so bad, So I don't know how you feel like coming from New World or other MMOs you've played. Like, how do you feel like the cadence of patches when it comes to MMOs have been?
that's exactly, like that's exactly what I mentioned previously when I was talking about New World, because that's the reason why I started making content, because there was not enough content in game,
Right.
and I genuinely like the game itself, like the world, the graphics. I don't have like very high demands when it comes to graphics and MMOs. I don't care.
Right.
The gameplay is more important. But
100%.
uh, the world was beautiful. It wasn't big, but it was pretty cool. The combat was fine. At least I liked it. Yeah, there were, a lot of bugs, a lot of metas and broken stuff, but the idea of the concept, the whole concept of it, um, was pretty good. And I was like, I want to stick to this game for a while, for a little longer. So I'll give it a chance, even though I knew it was
Yeah.
kind of hopeless to do. Somewhere deep inside my soul, I understood that it's dying, and what is, you know,
Well,
it's inevitable.
yeah, Wisp Noir just said MMO gamers are jaded and ADHD now, but that's the current market's fault. And I kind of agree. I think by the spoon feeding of trickled content and patch cadences, how long they usually are, how little they usually have in them, is why people aren't committed. Because back in the day, I would say from like 2010 to like 2016, many people were like shackled to one MMO and totally fine with it. Whether it was like World of Warcraft, whether it was Guild Wars 2, whether it was ESO, whether it was BDO, like there was just something in that time and age of like patches being fuller, people being happier, like, maybe the min-maxing wasn't as crazy or the guides, like people were being more community based. Like, I don't know what it is. I think now, maybe YouTube has become so sophisticated with like YouTubers and guides and like websites creating like all these, oh, do this, broken build and blah blah blah, right? So there's not much to figure out anymore with these games that have been out for literally decades now. Like we're in 2024. World of Warcraft is like 20, literally 20 years old. Like it's insane, So I feel like there's just a lot of MMOs right now that are deciding, it's almost like a retail job or any job. You're trying to figure out what is the minimum amount of work that I can do that's still passable that I won't get fired. And that's kind of like how I feel a lot of these AAA studios are being. It's like, well, in a patch, what's the littlest that we can do to get away with it and still call it a patch? Like that's what I feel like is happening behind closed doors.
We can fix some bugs and call it new content, you know?
Oh god, Diablo 4. Oh god, dude. Like seriously, oh my god. Like it's like, yeah, let's just hot fix, you know, a patch and then label it as a patch and then just fix a whole bunch of crap that's wrong with it and then say, "Okay, we're good. You guys are good now for the next 4 months, right?" Until we can think the next thing. Like, oh
Yeah,
god.
and, you know, the next level of that will be breaking something intentionally, then fixing it, and then saying that this is new content.
Dude. But
Big
yeah.
brain.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh my god. Hidden Dagger in, dude, thank you so much for the raid, dude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But yeah, like it's kind of nuts, man. Like,
You know,
or go ahead.
the interesting thing, yeah, sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
The interesting thing is, like, at some point in past, I kinda always thought that the more options you have, like, if you have to make a choice, the more options you have, the better it is. There's a higher chance that you will choose something that, you know, meets your requirements, or just you will find something that you want and that you're looking for. The thing is, surprisingly, it works quite the opposite. Because back in 2000, like, 6, let's say,
Hmm.
what were, like, the main MMOs?
Hmm. Yeah, like
Like
World of
World of
Warcraft.
Warcraft,
Um,
Lineage, and, what else?
it was
I
like,
can't even recall.
yeah, it was like a lot of the
Maybe some.
like City of Heroes and Villains, I think was still out. Conan was not in Exiles, but it was Age of Conan MMO. I don't know if Lord of the
Yep.
Rings was going on around that time too, or when that launched. Star Wars Galaxies, I think, was also still going on in 2006. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that there wasn't that many games to choose from. So, like, maybe 5, 6, 7,
Yeah.
not 100 like it's now.
Yeah, Warhammer Online.
And you start playing the game, then, like, the average person starts playing the game, then he gets disappointed, like something doesn't meet his expectations, or gets, you know, constantly killed or dominated by some other guild, or
Mhm.
whatever happens. And there's basically a choice appears in his head. Do I continue struggling here, or I just get rid of all these negative emotions and jump somewhere else?
Right.
And usually, like, people tend to choose the second option more and more often. So, yeah, that's how it works, I guess.
Got you, got you. Well, are you ready to actually get started on the real 1v1 that we're gonna do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Always ready.
All right. Well, let's get started because I am really curious to hear some of your opinions on this live stream and of course on Ashes. So, all right. So let's go in onto the YouTubes and records in 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, and welcome back to the 1v1 podcast. I am your host Vlhadus, and today I have a very special guest. He is a new Ashes of Creation YouTuber. He used to create content, and he'll probably talk about that in a little bit. Flanker, what is going on, my man?
Uh, I don't know. It's 3 a.m. here, but I'm ready to have some fun and some interesting conversations.
Well, dude, like I said in our pre-show, dude, thank you so much for coming on this early for me. It's central. I live in Texas here in the United States. You're clearly across the pond somewhere. So, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. I just wanted to have a dialogue and just talk Ashes and stuff like that.
Yep.
But before we get
Thank
into
you for
that,
having me.
like, I asked you in our pre-show, like, what started you get into Ashes, but I guess since we already said that, and again, if you want to watch that pre-show, go watch the whole VOD on YouTube. But I guess my first question is like, what was your first MMO? Like, what did you start playing that got you into this kind of MMO, kick?
So, it was a long time ago. I was there, Gandalf, 3,000 years ago. No, so my first MMO was Lineage 2.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
those who know, they know. So I started from the very first batch, first Chronicles, and it
Wow.
took probably more than 12 years of my life. I jumped,
Wow.
not jump from one server to another, but I had a chance to play on different servers, and that's basically the reason that made Ashes of Creation attractive to me is the fact that Steven I
Right.
heard someone's mentioning Lineage 2, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll take a look at what's going on there," because someone who knows, like, the philosophy and, the core pillars of Lineage 2,
Right.
there's a very low chance that they will fail when it comes to making a game.
Right. And I think for me, like coming from World of Warcraft, right? Like I didn't play Lineage 2. I didn't play Arcade or anything like that. But the principles are far different in those games than in World of Warcraft. And that was what attracted to me because I feel, and I've said this many times, and I'm sorry guys if you've heard me say this, but I've gotten so used to the WoW repetition cycle, and it's almost like I can predict what the new patch is going to bring, and I'm just sick of eating the same meal. I've ate it for 16 years. I want something new. Like I need to go to a new restaurant. And I feel like Ashes is completely different from the crap that I've been fed in WoW. And I think that's like the main attraction to me is that the philosophies are just vastly different because you have a theme park MMO and now you have a Sam Park MMO where it's like the mixture of both sandbox and theme park elements, but also like risk versus reward. Your contributions to like what you do on your singular character matters in the overall server, how every server is literally going to be different from any other server and what their progression is like. I just find that to be so like, even like for me as an altaholic, the replayability where I can go on my server with my guild and have fun, and then I can go on some of my friends' servers, a fellow streamer, and their server is going to be totally different, and that experience is leveling is going to be totally different. I find that to be really exciting from my perspective, which again, you play WoW and your leveling experience is literally the same. It will never change. It is so static and you're conditioned to know the same quest. And of course that's comfortable knowing what it is, but it's also fun not knowing, right? Like you're going to experience the leveling experience, but it's going to be different. It's going to have like different flavors and different like things that could occur. So like that's kind of what attracted me personally.
Absolutely. It's always nice to try something new, unless it's drugs, you know?
Well, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
I totally get it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I guess let's talk a little bit about this commissions update, and to me, I think again, when they talked about nodes, their nodes update, I think was mislabeled and it should have just been called the mayoral showcase because that's more or less what they really showed.
Mhm.
I feel like this particular commissions thing should have been more called like a leveling stream. I don't know if that would have been a disingenuous label, but I feel like commissions and everything they were kind of talking about was more about the leveling process and not just leveling your character, but leveling the node. I think it would kind of been like like almost like a double entendre, right? Like, you're talking about multiple things when you say leveling. But like, what did you feel overall about this commissions update?
I think we actually had a had a chance to see it wasn't necessarily, like, about just the quests. It was about actually playing, and by playing, I mean existing in the world of Vera. Because they didn't, of course, they showed us those, town bird quests, but
Hmm.
there's actually way more than that.
Oh
So
yeah.
not only they showed like the whole system, and it was something that I mentioned about the previous stream about the caravans, because they basically showed the caravans and like the PvP, the that stuff, but they could have shown more than that. Not just a piece of puzzle, but the whole puzzle when it
Right.
comes to you know, the whole story about the caravans. Like, for example, the highwayman system, some maybe rewards for that, some like, or at least tell us something about that, provide more
Right.
details. And I'm glad that this time that's exactly what they did.
Hmm.
So they, the stream wasn't like, here's the town bird quest, you click here, you take the quest, you go here, kill, 5 wolves, you go
Right.
back, you get 300 XP. That's it. Goodbye. See you in the next year.
Honestly, I was kind of thinking that was exactly what they were going to do. But
Uh,
I'm glad it was more dynamic. That was my takeaway from it because it was actually a very dynamic um system, right? And how this commissions board then trickles into like side quests, but then also everything is actually separate. Coming from World of Warcraft, you have 25 quests you can do, including dailies. So after that, you're capped. You can't accept anything more. I really love Ash's approach and being like, yeah, you can accept 20 commissions per day, but that's separate. That's a separate thing. Like you can also keep like story arc quests, and you can also keep like side quests, and all of those are all separate. So you can keep probably over like 50 something quests like in total, right? Of all your different kinds of quests. And I think having all of that content available to you that you can go and do and mix and match and see what you want to do on top of like gathering or crafting or processing or just random events that pop up, like whenever he was doing that side quest and needing to kill the chieftain when it started raining, which I thought was really cool. What do you think, like, how, when you were playing Lineage 2, was Lineage dynamic in that way, like or was it more static? Again, I haven't played Lineage 2, so I'm just curious on the
Mhm.
philosophy there.
So, as as a game itself, it was way more static, but
Gotcha.
it it depends on the server, your location, et cetera, because it can become dynamic
Right.
pretty fast. For example, you're like, I don't know, killing mob somewhere,
Right.
you see another guy, for whatever reason, you decide to flag, and he decides to flag, and he kills you. You're like,
Right.
oh, you asshole. You bring your friend, and now there's two of you. You
Right.
kill him, and write something funny in chat, like,
Right.
what we write. 10 minutes later, his whole party comes, and you get deleted from that location.
Right.
Then you bring your party, and after an hour, like, there are two guilds, 100 players each, fighting each other. They don't even know why are they fighting?
Like what
But,
even started it?
yeah, yeah, they don't know, but it is fun.
That's
The
awesome.
amount of daily PvP was, like, insane, and, that's something that I expect to experience in Ashes of Creation,
Hmm.
but I understand you know, the current trends when it comes to, you know, PvE, PvP balance, and that more
Hmm.
players they prefer to be affected by the actions of others as less as possible. But the updates that they made to the flagging and corruption system uh, are actually, like, perfect. So it will definitely contribute to providing that healthy environment when it comes to unconsensual PvP. Let's put it that way.
Right. Um, and then someone just asked, how to find the weather status shown with Storm Shaman influencing the world and how your actions show on the environment you're reacting with. That shows me progress is being made. What are your thoughts on how they handled that? I thought weather influencing not only like events from occurring, but also potentially even changing, and then also like other NPCs like now offering quests because now it's raining. Like I think that is so freaking cool. And this is the thing too, is that Steven loves Dungeons and Dragons. And as a game master, you have all autonomy and authority to do whatever the hell you want to do. And I feel that in this game so much, is that I feel like, well, hey, it's raining. Why can't we just add an NPC that like only spawns when it rains and just like does this thing? Or you can do this daisy chain of quests or whatever, right? Like I love that. And I think weather, and again, that's just one aspect of weather, right? So seasonality is another component, right? So you have the seasons, you have weather, you have all of these conditions that could occur that could allow you to experience something brand new, some kind of event, some kind of thing of occurring. And honestly, Flanker, hearing you say the spontaneity of this battle royale for, and again, because it is like you're gonna have 50 players, 100 players all just killing. So you and your three buddies that are just going out and gathering could then just go out, like, you're kind of going off of like an escalation on a cliff, and then you just see this huge battle happen. You're like, what the hell is going on down there? Like, and I'm sure as a player in Lineage, if you were to see something like that, was really freaking cool, because it was out in the open world and you were to be able to see something like that. And you can either be a spectator, or you can be like, hey, you want to go try to fuck people up down there? Sure. Let's
Yeah,
go do it.
absolutely.
I think that's freaking fun.
Yep, you're totally right. That's what I expect to happen a lot in Ashes of Creation. Those, spontaneous fights, drama. you know. And speaking of the whole stream, it actually felt like you are not just playing the game, like your character is living in that world,
Yes,
because a lot of
100%.
yeah, a lot of things are happening around you. Of course, you can ignore them, but you can, participate in whatever is going on around you.
Right,
And that part with weather was actually pretty cool. It wasn't something that I expected to see because, like, I expect to see only like the bare minimum requirements that I personally expect to see from MMO.
right,
Like not too boring quests, average graphics, decent combat, mass PvP, gathering, crafting, and all that. I'm not asking for too much, But when I
right,
see something that I was not looking for, basically, but it's already there and it looks good,
right,
then I'm like, well, okay, that's impressive. Yeah,
right. I really loved how when Steven completed that quest, there was a reward of a recipe for that what was it, that axe? It was a recipe
yeah,
to make that axe. Oh, I freaking love that, man. Like I have been saying, and we've had our boy Corey, aka Concordian Slurp, which I know that's probably not how you pronounce it, but that's how I say it. Whatever. But he's a dev at Intrepid, and he's in the professions team at Intrepid. And I've said I really want quests to give more than just completed gear, because if professions and Steven saying crafters are going to make the best shit, allow us to make shit while we're leveling. In World of Warcraft, you rarely ever craft a piece of gear for a leveling purpose. You only either craft something to grind your levels up in your profession, or you're crafting for endgame. But you rarely ever craft an actual piece of gear at level 21 to equip at level 21. And again, I just really love the fact that we can either get or earn materials, recipes, and not just completed gear. I don't mind if they do completed gear like every now and then, like maybe for like big capstone chapter story arcs or whatever. But I just don't want, I want there to be a multitude of other things in the commissions too. I think having commissions and having like small fun buffs, as a reward too, could actually be really fun. Like, the fun police in Blizzard, every time that there's something that they overlook that is broken, that makes just a fun experience, right? Like you're not doing anything crazy, you're not breaking the TOS, but then they come in and they nerf it immediately because they're like, oh, we can't allow that. We can't do that. I think for one time, like one off, like you'll never ever do this quest ever again because once you've done it, like that's it. You can't repeat it. Why not give like a fun buff, like a temporary 5-minute buff that allows you to do something wacky, because once it wears off, you'll never be able to get that buff ever again. I think the one thing that I love about Steven is that he's been thinking outside of the box, because when you look at a lot of these systems, like the weather, the seasons, and all this other stuff, and the things that I wouldn't even have expected to see, like lightning striking Steven and killing him. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. I mean, that's something that literally everyone enjoyed.
yeah,
Probably
it
was
was
the
great.
funniest thing.
And
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, can you imagine being in this huge battle, right? Of like what you were talking about, and it's raining, and you're literally like going up, you're seeing your next target, and then lightning strikes them and they're just dead. You're like, oh dang. Well, I guess the light took care of that dude. Like I find that to be just really fun. Like it's just the hilarity of it, but also I think it's okay, especially, and this is a huge thing for me. Leveling in many games are so boring and so monotonous that if you can just allow people while they're leveling, right, to just experience a little bit of brokenness, a little bit of like, hey, you can actually double repeat this spell back to back, for a couple of minutes or something like that, right? And maybe you could use that to go and try to kill somebody, and you're like, hey, I have this buff once and that's it. I got to make the best use of it. And I'm going to try to go and kill a bunch of people. Cool. Because you'll never ever be able to do that ever again. I think having those moments in an MMO is so crucial. And it's so important because at the very end of the day, we're playing this game to have fun. We're not playing this because it's a job, because, I don't know. I don't know how you personally feel about dailies and MMOs or leveling. Like, let me just ask you, like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't have anything about like against dailies unless they are artificially gate cap. What's the right word for it in English?
Gatekeep?
Gate cap, the best form of it, or whatever. If they are kind of like the only way to achieve something, that's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, okay.
Because if that's just the way to get experience
Right.
and you can't do anything else
Right.
because it just doesn't make sense,
Right.
then I have a problem with that. Or if that's the only way to, let's say, gain no reputation,
Right.
then yeah, because maybe I don't want to do them, you know.
Right.
But if there are other ways to achieve the same goals as you can achieve for the dailies, I'm totally
Right.
fine with that.
So
And
okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, sorry. And In the end of the day, there are people who may just, log in. They have like half an hour to play, and they're like, "Well, am I gonna spend that half an hour to find a group to the dungeon? It will take half an hour, right? I can't do that.
Hmm.
I can, go to the nearest hunting ground and kill a few mobs. Well, yeah, but that's still half an hour. But completing one or two quests, that may be fine.
Hmm.
It's already something. You have, uh, I guess, there's like different types of content when it comes to time required to complete it. So that quest can be like 5-10 minutes, but completing, some dungeon or killing the world boss, that may be a couple of hours.
Right.
So if you don't have a couple of hours, then probably you won't go. But if you are limited on time, you can, focus something like that. So should be fine,
Right.
I
I
guess.
So I guess, like, for you, being multifaceted in a leveling experience, meaning there isn't one way to level, like, is what you would want. Like, because in World of Warcraft, like, you basically have to do quests. If you don't do quests, you're gonna have a bad time leveling, because that is the primary way for you to get experience. So, like, you're basically, what you're asking is, I want there to be like multiple different ways for me to experience leveling. Like, if I don't
It's
want to
not
do story arcs, I can do this or something.
it's not necessarily what I want,
Okay.
because uh, it's what will be good for the game. Because people play games for various reasons, and everyone enjoys doing different things, and it's better to offer them some options. And what you said about World of Warcraft, it's the same thing in Lineage, but it's not quests. It's just pure grinding for hours, 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 and hours. Yeah.
Oh God. And that's the thing too. When Steven, there's certain snippets of Steven from back in the day saying that Ashes of Creation isn't going to be a grindy game. I find that so hard to believe now. Like, because again, their leveling process and how that is, like, going from level 1 to level 50, he said was going to take anywhere from, from 4 to 6 hours of gameplay a day to about a month and a half to go
Yep.
from 1 to 50.
Yep.
That is insane in today's MMO climate, because in New World, you can go from 1 to max in a single day. Lost Ark, you can go from 1 to max in a single day. In every pretty much MMO I can think of, you can go from 1 to max level usually in a single day, if not just a couple of days. So, like, how are you okay? Are you okay with a longer leveling process that might end up being maybe just as grindy as Lineage 2? Maybe not, because there's going to be other facets, right? There's going to be like dungeons, there's going to be commissions, there's going to be like professions, like even like picking up stuff on the ground earns you experience, right? So, like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's not that bad for me, I guess, because that's gonna be what, maybe 2 weeks for me. Let's be honest, but maybe 3 weeks. I don't know. But once again, when you asked about how I feel like about commissions and dailies, the
Hmm.
thing is, there are a lot of things that you can do to grind XP, but
Hmm.
there will still be one that is more effective than the others,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So probably that's what personally I will be doing
I think
because I'm that kind of a player.
you think, oh, so what if Intrepid like just standardizes it? Like meaning like let's say commissions are the best way because they offer you the highest amount of experience like per hour. But what if they just average it out from every other system, right? And say, well, you can do now we've kind of fixed the numerical values to where everything is as effective. Like
Equal?
they're yeah, equal. Like there isn't like they're all as equal. Like they will all get you there in the same amount of time. Like do you feel like as a grinder, as someone who really wants to level like as fast as possible, do you feel like that would be a good thing or that would be bad?
It won't change anything for me because if
Okay.
all options are equal, I will just do the same thing or choose something that I like better. That's it. No big deal for me. It's like when it comes to me choosing a strategy, I mostly make decisions based on, rationality and calculations because numbers never lie, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I enjoy doing in games, making rational decisions
Right.
personally and, optimize strategies
Okay.
and, that kind of stuff. It may be a little bit unusual and weird, but, we're all different.
So in Lineage 2, like how long was like the average level from going from level 1 to max level? Like if someone was just playing like let's say even casually.
It depends on the server and it depends on the rates of the server. And also it
Interesting.
depends on the patch. For example, there was,
Jeez.
I believe, World of Warcraft had WoW Classic or something like that,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
So Lineage 2 had the same thing. And by Classic, they meant that we start from the very first patch and we will make an update to the second patch, to the third
Mhm.
patch every like couple of months. And the first patches, like the game that was released, in 2000 something, was freaking hardcore. So as far if I recall correctly, on those Lineage 2 classic servers, someone was approaching like the level cap. I believe it was like level 79 out of 80
Mhm.
after 2 or 3 years. So it was insanely difficult. And
Wow.
that's 2 or 3 years of playing like 12 hours a day.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Cuz I my first experience in WoW in 2006, it took me 3 months to level from 1 to 70. 3 months. But
Yep.
again, I wasn't playing all hours every day. I had a job and everything like that. But I remember the satisfaction of hitting the max
The level.
level. Yes. And I feel like that has so been lost in today's MMOs. And I
Have
or go ahead.
sorry, have you played, New World or only World of Warcraft?
I have played New World. I only got to like level 28, but New World was not I wasn't playing New World to play the game. I was playing it to play the professions because everybody says the professions and the gathering was like the best. Um I have
So
my
did it feel good to reach a next level in New World? Probably not as good as it felt in World of Warcraft when you hit the max level.
No, but again, I wasn't trying to take it from that approach. So it's kind of unfair to New World because I wasn't playing New World to hit end game or to hit max level. I was
Mhm,
literally playing it to experience like the gathering system and to experience the profession system. And again, I have my issues with New World already because it's not the kind of game that I like in its systems that it offers, and I'm not a fan of the action combat, and I'm also not a fan of the 3 button weapon system.
mhm.
Basically, like I like having, you know, 820 buttons, you know what I mean? Like I like having a lot of different abilities, a lot of different ways to like attack and stuff. And I think the I wouldn't say it's simplicity or anything, but it's just having 6 buttons, right? Because you can switch out of your 2 weapons that you use. Like I just it's and I honestly don't like weapon classes. I don't like you just being whatever weapon you pick up, that's your class. Like I don't like that. I love having like I'm a mage and I'm gonna have mage abilities and
Mhm.
that's what I like. So
and
New World.
you're supposed to have mage weapons. I understand that as well, and I'm totally
Right.
with you when it comes to crafting and gathering because, like, I wasn't the first in New World who reached level 200, in all
Mhm.
trade skills, but I was first on the server. And speaking of the whole game, I don't know, maybe like top 3, top 5, and I did that solo, so nobody was feeding mats to me. You can probably understand how much time I played, so
Jeez. Well, I again, my boy Nice Gaming, man, he's been playing a lot of New World too. And Burns, Dr. Burns from Ashes of Creation, he played a lot of New World too, playing the healing staff and everything like that. And again, I think New World just has a long way to go for that game to be like up to par with some of the other games out there. And honestly, like, and this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to say World of Warcraft is like the end all be all of whatever MMO should aspire to, because I think World of Warcraft has failed a lot on a lot of their systems, a lot of their principles and stuff. However, I still feel like there's just a huge barrier into competing with games that have almost 10, 15, 20 years worth of content just right from day one, that you can go and you can experience and stuff like that. Get,
it's
or go
true.
ahead.
It's Oh, sorry, yeah. It's true to a degree, but at the same time, those games that exist for, 10, 15 years, they cannot be as flexible as your new game. Because
Mm,
prior to release, prior to launch, you can do whatever you want, and you can implement some, modern like trends and new systems, etc., etc. But in a game that is 10 years old, you can't add to World of Warcraft something like you know there are two factions there, right? If I recall correctly,
yes, there is.
you can't implement something like PK system today, for example,
Right.
right? Because people will be like, "What the hell? Like, that's not what I spent my 10
That's
years of life
very
for."
true.
Yeah, yeah. So there are certain pros and cons.
Right. Well, so I guess that they can kind of bring the discussion up to dailies real quick because Redbeard Flynn posted in YouTube, and he's a fellow like MMO creator. He's talked about like Ashes of Creation. He's talked about like Pantheon, Guild Wars 2, and he put out a poll recently of like what is a system that you most hate in an MMORPG, and the top like percentage, and this was after like 120 votes,
Mhm.
was dailies. Dailies was the most hated system out of the choices there. I can't. Let me go try to
What
find.
were
That's
the
what I was.
other
I knew
options?
you were gonna ask that. Give me 1 second. I'll find
Yeah,
it.
exactly, because that matters.
Let me see. So while I'm trying to find this, like, what do you feel? How do you feel about dailies in general, like in MMORPGs?
Um, like I don't feel anything about them, to be honest. But
Okay.
it's nice to have them because you always have an option. I'm telling you, like a big secret, guys. There's always an option not to touch them.
Back in 2020.
So if you don't like them, don't touch them. You know,
Right. All right. Oh, so now it's at 444 votes. So,
better sampling.
yep. So, the choices are inventory management, dailies, lag, food/drink, or something else.
Oh man,
And dailies was the
uh,
can be
and
dailies slash login rewards, etc.
how many percent did it get?
52. The second one was inventory management, and then third was lag, and then 5% is food and drink, and then 7% was something else.
Hmm, interesting. Well, yeah, I guess people don't like dailies for because of the certain anxiety that they have and FOMO. Because if I don't complete those quests today, then that's it. They're gone.
Right.
There's no chance to complete them tomorrow because tomorrow I'll have new quests. And I guess it's not it's not necessarily a bad decision when it comes to game design. But if you take a look at it from psychology perspective, that's what made people think that it's a bad thing.
Right.
So
Like if I don't do
that
these, I'm missing out, on
exactly.
something,
And those quests may be amazing, like not
right.
bring 10, you know,
Wolf
cockroaches
pelts.
from the field, yeah, or
Right.
whatever. Those quests can be amazing, but that's the feeling that you have that plays a much significant role.
Right.
And
I
I
think
guess that's the reason.
I think for me, I don't mind dailies too much personally. Like if I don't do them, but I'm a very much the kind of player that I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and that's that. If they're and again in World of Warcraft, dailies I think are more hated because you have a certain thing that you want from like the exalted reputation, right? So like the highest ranking reputation. And so now you have to do all the dailies for this particular faction so you can get that one thing you want, and it's like, like,
Mhm.
am I willing to do this whole grind for this one thing? For me, I feel like dailies and ashes are going to feel better because they're actually impactful to the world around you. And again, like what we saw from this showcase, if that is the extent of impactfulness, I am totally fine with that. I'm not expecting there to be this whole server world change because I did a single commissions quest, right? But I think you think of this on a grander scale, right? Of like 1,000 people that belong and are citizens of a node, all doing these 20 commissions a day, and then radical changes occurring, shifting, leveling of the node, going from tier 2 to tier 3, going to tier 4, all of these other systems coming online that are now complementing to the commission sports system, because of course as the nodes advance there's more systems that become online in the node system. So I think doing these dailies, and also I feel like what you were saying earlier about it being multifaceted, right? I think there's going to be multiple ways for you to earn node XP or node experience other than just completing these commissions. I think also like killing dungeon bosses in that area could also provide node experience. Completing certain story arcs from that node are going to provide node experience. I think gathering and killing certain mobs will also provide node experience. So for me, the reason why dailies always felt very lackluster is because they were so repeatable, they were so boring, and they didn't really do anything other than just increase my reputation bar. In
Mhm.
Ashes, they are so much more. And I think that's what I think dailies are going to be very transformative in this game.
Another important thing that I forgot to mention is exactly what we were talking about previously when we spoke about, short attention span, ADHD, and, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So what we saw on the stream would be like a paradise for a person with ADHD. Oh, no,
Right.
wait. Hey, I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. I meant, okay, hang on, let me translate it in my head first. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is it's important when you're playing the game, you don't have those, time frames of like 5, 10, 15 minutes when
Right.
absolutely nothing is happening. And
Right.
what we saw on the stream, a lot of things were happening.
100%.
And, random quests, dailies, mob fights, uh, some thunder, and that like a lot of events happening per a period of time, and that's a good thing because that's not something that you will quickly get bored of. And another thing that I noticed is that killing mobs were not actually that easy. Like Steven was what, level 15, and he was fighting level 8 mobs or something like that, like 8 9,
Mhm.
and I can't say it was really easy for him. I mean, of course, I saw that people in comments were trolling him for, not having any how do you call that? Bins, right?
I
The key bins, key
Yeah,
binds, key bins,
keybinds.
whatever. Key binds, yeah,
I-
okay. But, still, it doesn't look like it's gonna be that easy to,
well,
kill mobs.
there was a person who asked, what happens to dailies in Ashes when your node is node locked? Will people still do dailies? Maybe not, and I think that's fine. Like again, the reason why I love Ashes is the amount of content that basically derives from every single system. I think there's sometimes too much that I think for a player to, if I was, you know, trying to create a video as like what a person can do in my server on this node alone, it could potentially be a 25-minute video of all the different things that you could potentially do. And I think that's a lot because if you come from another game, right, it's super easy. If you're in this zone and you're level 12, just do those zones or do those quests in that zone. Like that's the answer. Like it's literally a YouTube short at that point. Like, hey, these are all the POIs in this one little area to hit level 13. Like, boom, you're done. It's so much more than that in Ashes. And I think that in itself is really, really great. There's been a conversation going on because of Last Epoch recently. I don't know if you're into ARPGs at all, but you know, there's been a whole conversation that I've been looking at with different YouTubers talking about Diablo 4, talk about Last Epoch, and talk about Path of Exile. You know, and people are talking about how Diablo 4 is like the most basic ARPG, you know, for like dads with like, you know, 7 kids, 3 jobs, 4 wives. You know, they only have an hour to play. It's the perfect, you know, ARPG for them to play because they only have an hour. And then Path of Exile is like for the freaking neckbeards that have 18 hours a day that want to freaking test and grind and just play all day, every day. And again, that's not your average person, right? Because there's just so much to Path of Exile. There's so many systems, there's so much content to kind of get through. It can be very overwhelming. And then you have Last Epoch, that is kind of like the just right approach. It's not too much, it's not too little. It is the right blended approach. I said all that to say this: Ashes of Creation is probably going to be the Path of Exile. Ashes of Creation is going to be one of those games where you kind of have to break it down to a new person of like what to do potentially, because the amount of content that they're going to be able to unlock, not just because they unlocked it, because other people in the server unlocked it for them, is going to be a lot to like, oh my God, this is crazy. The great thing is that they can just do what they're comfortable with, get used to that, and then start branching out into the other things that they may have not have experienced.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Uh, it's good to have a lot of options, but at the same time, it may be a little bit, overwhelming, especially for a new player. Like,
Right.
imagine trying playing, I don't know, World of Warcraft, like from absolutely zero.
Oh
It's
yeah.
gonna be difficult. The same thing applies to Lineage. Same thing applies to, I don't know, whatever game, like League of
Right.
Legends. That's probably complicated. I never
Right.
played it, but yeah. And but yeah, uh,
Well, yeah,
having some sort of like walkthrough process, having a lot of content creators, having wiki can be definitely helpful when
I
it
just
comes to
I
that.
just want to say this. Q just rated us on
Mm.
Twitch, dude.
Hey,
Q, thank you so much for the raid, bro. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And welcome everybody that came from Q stream. We're over here just talking about leveling, commissions, dailies, you name it, just talking about Ashes in general. And again, I think honestly now, I think it's okay to have an MMORPG that is more advanced, because there's so many basic MMOs out there that I think
true.
this is for the people. Like, this game is being built for people that have MMO experience, you know. And Steven has said it so many times that game is going to be harder than your average MMO. So you have MMOs that are very training wheels. This is not a training wheels MMO, you know.
It's actually, yeah. Sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
It's an important thing to also keep in mind. Is whether Ashes of Creation, like, can it possibly become a virgin MMO player friendly game? So someone who never played MMO, can
I
it be that person's first game?
I think it can, but it's going to take a kind of commitment, because let me tell you this: there are people, because of Diablo 4's debacle, that did, you know, like I said, you know, the man that only has an hour to play, you know, with all these kids, all these jobs, and all these wives, have tried Path of Exile, And even though that game is very daunting, like, and again, you go and follow a build guide, the normal build guide is like a 45-minute video on YouTube, to like
Mhm.
seriously, because there's a lot of levels, there's a lot of content to experience along the way. There's a lot of ways to mess up too, because again, the choices in Path of Exile are permanent. If you can literally brick your character and then you would have to start all over. So it's very important to follow the guide to the T. Again, and there's been a lot of people that have done that. And again, they're used to guides. There's a lot of people that don't mind guides. I don't mind following a guide because again, I only have an hour to play. If someone else has already done all the hard labor of figuring all this stuff out for me, awesome. I don't have to do that. I can literally just follow their guide and experience the fun aspects because in my way, in how I like to play, figuring it all out is the fun part. But to some people, that could be the more stressful part. And the fun part is
Yeah.
actually pushing the buttons and killing the mobs, right? So it really just depends on the player. But I think Ashes could be an MMORPG that, as long as there's, I think that a little bit of amount of dedication. Because I think if you're just trying to get into this
Yeah.
game without trying to dedicate yourself to it, you're probably not going to stick around. It's the same thing with like League of Legends. You're not going to start playing that game casually without some kind of a dedication to it.
Yeah, it's about the balance between, making the game, as I said, like virgin MMO player friendly and
Right.
not another easy game. Like New World, for example. Say whatever you
Right.
want, but New World was an easy game.
Right.
It was nothing comparing to, any other game basically.
Right.
That's more, yeah. So yeah, but at the same time, and that's something that I like about Steven and his approach. He's doing a great job when it comes to maintaining, listening to feedback and standing his ground when necessary when
Oh,
it comes to, core pillars.
100%. And the other reason too that I give Steven a lot of like grace right now is because when I mentioned about like having to make or talk about these games that have been out for 10, 15, 20 plus years, he knows that as a player. And he knows what happens when you make a basic MMO. Like, cause I think Ashes of Creation literally could have been out by now if they just went very basic systems with it.
Yep.
But Steven literally is like, no, people want content. Like people want to experience like not only the game loops that we create, but also like player created content. And they need to provide systems that allows player created content to emerge. And I love that approach because some of the best things in an MMORPG are exactly the kind of things that you talked about, where you have a person that conflicted with another person, that then have a guild conflict with another guild, that have a battle conflict with another battle, and
Yeah.
then you have like a whole 3-month server crisis, and but it all spawned from this stupid thing that everyone forgot about, and I was like, wait, why are we even
Exactly.
doing this? And that's the fun, that's the point. And MMOs have lost sight of that, and I feel like with the amount of spy, intrigue, backstabbing, political drama, streamer drama. Like Ashes is going to be that game where you're going to watch it literally for the drama. Not because of
Exactly.
someone's gameplay build, not because of how broken the mage is. You're going to watch it because all of your favorite big streamers are going to experience the craziest shit drama you've ever heard in an MMORPG, and that's going to be the bread and butter of Ashes.
Yeah.
100%.
The politics, the drama of the conflicts, it's
It's going
gonna
to be
be
wild.
very interesting because the politics in Lineage was crazy. And wait, uh, that those kind of, those kind of situations, they always lead to conflict, and conflict leads to decisions that are based on emotions. And then we will see that someone, go corrupt, and then we see that someone go corrupt and drop, some legendary stuff.
Mhm.
And that's like those moments are memorable. And
Right.
if you just remember, like, go back in time and try to remember the things that you remember from all those, 10 years of playing World of Warcraft, for example.
Right.
There will be a number of things. Not all of them are positive,
Right.
but now when you remember them, you're like, well, that still was, funny, even though it wasn't necessarily positive. Because if you drop an item that you spent a month of your time to grind and to buy it,
Mhm.
and you just dropped it because you went corrupt and got killed, at that moment, you're like, you might have a mental breakdown. But after like a month, a week, or a year, you'll be like, can you fucking imagine how stupid I was? I killed that person. Like, I'm an idiot, you know?
Yeah.
And that will be a memory, even though it doesn't necessarily feel good now to lose that item, but later you'll have fun of it and it's gonna be fun. So yeah. And one more thing that I liked about, I don't know whether that's something that Steven said himself or it was just, you know, indirect quote of his words, but I like the fact that they are not trying to make another WoW killer, you know?
Yes. Thank
They're not trying
God.
to compete on someone else's field. They're
Right.
making their own field. And they like when you take that approach, there are no standards. There are no, you know, you're not limited by anything, only
Right.
by your imagination and, you know, technical and financial capabilities. And and that's also risky. So when Steven
Yes.
talks about risk versus reward, he actually means it and he's not hiding from that risk, you know?
I mean, he's playing Risk versus Reward in real life because again,
Yeah, exactly.
making an MMORPG in this day and age is ungodly expensive, and
It's
he's risking it for the biscuit on a game that has not been tried and true. Because people can say Arc Age and Lineage and all this other stuff, but that was back in the day. Like we live
yep.
in a whole different day and age now. Is this game going to be accepted among like the titans of the MMO genre, right? Like you think of like Final Fantasy 14, World of Warcraft, BDO, ESO, all these different games that are out. Like, can Ashes stand among them? And honestly, I think it can. And the reason why I think it can is because it's player first, like at the end of the day. And again, as much as New World doesn't appeal to me, I feel like there is going to be a lot of people where Ashes isn't going to appeal to them. I think that's fine. I think overall, though, the market, and again, and I've said this many times, I think there will be other countries that are going to accept Ashes more um graciously than probably the United States. And I'm fine with that. I don't, like I said, I've always said this. I don't care if there's 20,000 people in the United States playing Ashes of Creation. If there's a 5 million people playing worldwide, I don't care. Because again, right now, I think there's
Makes
like
sense.
20,000 people playing New World right now worldwide. So
Yeah.
who
Yeah, it's not a
cares?
million as it used to be.
Yeah, no, not anywhere close. But again, it's because
Yeah,
New World dropped the ball. Like, I mean, they decided to release their game being unfinished, and even though they waited a year, because I remember they were going to release it and they delayed it a year, it was still unfinished even after that year delay.
mhm.
So, but again, it wasn't. I don't blame AGS in the sense of like the lead game designer and stuff like that, because this was above his pay grade. This came from on high, that our investors are asking for their money back. You have to release this game now. Like, that's really what happened. Like it, and again, I think if you're even somewhat of the know as a gamer, like, you would understand that it wasn't AGS trying to be like cynical and be like, oh, we're gonna release an unfinished game. I think they wanted to finish it, but again, there was so many problems using Lumberyard. I think that screwed them immensely. Was them trying to make a Lumberyard their primary engine. I think just royally messed up that entire process of the game.
Yeah, it's interesting how would it all go if the game was actually ready, but I guess we'll never know. But the most important, like, what we should hope for is that Ashes of Creation is not gonna be the same, it's gonna be different, and at this point, like, I'm carefully optimistic and I'm very skeptical by nature, but uh, I don't have reasons to worry, to be honest, at this point. It seems to be fine. They're moving in the right direction. We
Mm-hmm.
can see progress on a monthly basis. Their studio is growing.
Very true.
So I'm like, we even have the Alpha 2 announced, and it's not years away. It's a few months away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, well, we'll
So,
find out soon enough.
so because you came from Lineage 2, like, knowing all of the different interconnected systems in Ashes of Creation, is there any concerns that you have, like either on a certain philosophy of the game, a certain system of the game, maybe a certain system that maybe has been showcased that you're like, is there just any kind of concerns that you have on the game so far?
Quite the opposite, because
Okay.
they take several systems from Lineage 2,
Mhm.
and they are actually trying to make it better, and I see the logic behind those amends, and it
Okay.
makes perfect sense. Because, I just posted a video yesterday about that, about
Okay.
the corruption and flagging system. That's one of the things that they, because Lineage had the same flagging system and, corruption system, uh, but it was not perfect.
Okay.
And the thing is, for example, in Ashes of Creation, um, the death penalties, if like if you're dying while being corrupt, the death penalties are way more serious, comparing to Lineage. You suffer more, more severe consequences, and there's a bounty system. There is skill and stat dampening, and a lot, like multiple changes, and they all, you know play, like, each piece of sorry, I'm a bit clumsy when it comes to talking in English,
No, it's okay.
but
I appreciate it.
each yeah, that every single small update, there is a reason for it to be, and there is a goal behind it. So, for example,
Mhm.
at first when I found out that there is like that, skill dampening if you kill multiple peoples, I was like, what the hell? Like, why is it there? And then I realized the reason. The reason behind that is, in this case, other players will not be able to have an alt specifically for killing another character, for killing players, because after a certain number of kills, your PK character becomes ineffective.
Right.
And that was a I can't say it was a problem in Lineage 2, but that was something that people did. Some people did.
Right.
And yeah, so in this case, you won't have to deal with the problems that you managed to avoid.
No, I just linked your video to the chat because they were asking like for
Oh,
the link, so I sent it out. So, but yeah, like I think the corruption system is actually a concern for most people. It used to be a concern of mine, but now I'm just kind of like I just need to see it. I need to play it and stuff like that. And
okay.
you coming from Lineage 2 and actually seeing this kind of upgraded corruption system, like you're actually feeling good with it. You think this can actually work.
100%. Like, um, it once again, it wasn't perfect
Right.
in Lineage, but it still worked pretty well. It
Right.
could it be better? Sure, everything can be better,
Right.
but it was still pretty fine. It was really rare. Like, those cases when you meet someone griefing you are rare. That's what, like, 1% of your playtime. Would you actually, like, worry about 1% that may be very negative, for example,
Right.
of that 1% playtime that was very negative, comparing to 99% of your gaming time that was actually,
Positive.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It's
I
pure negativity bias, because people just don't like even the smallest bit of those negative emotions. They don't like that feeling of helplessness, and, the feeling that someone takes
I
advantage over them.
I think it's more like you talked about player psychology earlier. I really think that's exactly what that is because you've seen the whole like I'm sure you've seen the experiment right where a person's like I love you, 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 I hate you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, but then they remember that I hate you more than the 9 I love yous they said. And
Exactly.
and so I feel like that's kind of like the gamer mindset, and especially now. We live in a day and age where people get triggered for seeing a tweet on Twitter or X is what it's called now. It's like I think the emotionality of certain gamers are just either at an all-time high or maybe it's just I don't know. Like for me, like I don't really get triggered too easily, right? For me, I think because you I'm sure griefing in Lineage 2, I don't know how predominant that was on servers, but that's the biggest concern that I think Ashes people have that haven't played Lineage 2 or Arcade, right? That never got to
Mhm.
experience like what a corruption system does on a live server. Like, are there people just constantly going after newbies and killing them over and over and over? Because you have people saying that same line on the forums or, on
Exactly.
the live streams.
Exactly. There's a lot of that, and many people do not really understand where is the line between competition and griefing. Because, for example, if there is a location and a player is farming there or gathering there, right?
Right.
You come there because you always also want to do that, and he kills you. Is that griefing?
No.
Well, no, because it's competing. That person has a goal of protecting that spot.
Right.
But there will be people who would say like, "Oh, he affected my gameplay in a negative way. I felt bad." Well, what do you want?
Yeah.
Therapy? I mean, are you 5 year old or something? Like, and I'm not trying to say that in a bad way
No,
because like
right.
we are all people, we all have emotions.
Right.
Well, mostly,
Yeah.
but like if that is something that triggers you, like that small thing in game, in a video game triggers you, I think you should actually do something about it. Like change your mindset somehow. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree with you, man. I think again, and that's why I think the drama is going to be so freaking sweet in this game because I think there are going to be players that are going to be like, "How dare you? You killed me once, and it was the worst experience of my life." And I'm going to be so forward to looking at the comments on Reddit, on little YouTube shorts, or just all the different things of people complaining about like this system. It's going to be great.
it's it's gonna like I'm not when I see those cases, I'm not like laughing at the people for being triggered. Like it's not personal. I'm actually laughing at how little like how little you need to become mad. Because if that
Right.
small thing, like if a person can get inside your head and take control of your, you know, emotional state, like how's that like how's it even possible? Why are you letting someone else having so much power over you?
Right.
Like it's not it doesn't make sense to me. But maybe it's once again, it's just my subjective opinion. Maybe that's my mindset or like my mentality because I'm not an emotional person.
Hmm.
I'm not a, mm, that kind of person. So I'm pretty cold. So I may be biased to a degree.
I'm just curious in Lineage 2. Um, if you were like, let's say, gathering at a certain spot where there was like a bunch of harvestable stuff, and there was another person that could potentially gather the same stuff you were gathering, but you're like, I'm going to decide to kill them because I don't want them to take the stuff that I'm gathering. And you do that multiple times. In your head, is that considered griefing? Or are you just trying to protect the stuff you're trying to
Well,
gather?
and in Lineage 2 there wasn't like gathering, but there was mostly farming, grinding
Hmm.
mobs.
Okay.
So if I do that repeatedly, um, it's not. I understand your question. What are
Okay.
you trying to say? Like what's and I mentioned that in video as well. So frequency and duration are maybe signs of griefing as well. But
Right.
the most important sign, and that's the first question that you need to ask yourself, is what is the goal of another player, and is there any benefit for him?
Right.
Because if I kill that person like 5 times in a row because he keeps coming to my spot, I have a goal because like I want this location to be mine,
Right.
and I have benefit because those resources or those mobs will be mine. Is that griefing? No, it's competition. And the
Right.
fact that it's that happens 3 or 5 times in a row um, doesn't change anything. And another factor that doesn't change anything is the fact that it's not personal. I'm not
Right.
killing that cheerleader 69 because because I hate him.
Right.
No, I would kill any other player. I don't care who you are.
Right.
I'm just trying to protect the my location. That's it. So that's the part of competition.
So let me see. Mr. Valentine asked a question. He says, with the world being so dynamic and changing, what are your thoughts on the environment event that takes a node away? Are you for this or against it? Is it a way to prevent a stagnation in nodes, or is it two hands on when we have a PvP system already?
But it's very like complex question, and there's like actually multiple questions.
Yeah, I know.
Let's break it down, I guess.
Okay.
With the world being so dynamic and changing, what are your thoughts on environmental event that takes a node away? Well, it depends. Well, no, it actually doesn't depend on anything. If there is something that you can do and you haven't done that, well, be responsible for not doing that. If there is nothing you can do and it's purely random, well, you got unlucky. That's what I can say. Because all nodes are in the same situations. If there is like 100 nodes and once a week one of them gets completely destroyed, it's random. You know, you will only start complaining about it when it's your node that gets destroyed. You will give zero. I'm not sure if I
What?
can say that. You wouldn't care. Let's put it that way.
Uh-huh.
If 10 other nodes got destroyed today, you would only care if your node got destroyed. So as long as like the chances are equal, I'm fine with it. If there's no default inequality, let's say.
Okay.
So yeah,
Well,
that's what I'm trying to say.
I think for me, I don't know if there is going to be an environmental event that actually could de-level a node or destroy a node. I don't think that that's actually a thing in Ashes. But let's just say for question's sake that it does. Um, I'm personally okay with it. You know, for me, I think it would make the game a little frustrating, to be honest, because I would rather have it be a player thing. Like I would rather have a player or a guild declare a siege on a node. We lost and the node got de-leveled back to 0. I would be more okay with that because that was a player created thing and in a win or lose situation. You know, environmental is just situational. It's like, well, who was online? Were they protecting the node? You know, was lightning just striking it over and over and then it went from level 5 to level 4? Like, is that fair? I guess not. But I mean, to me, it's like to have that sense of randomness just because an event happened in that area. I'm not saying it's unfair. It's just, it's a little frustrating because it's like, okay, like it just randomly happened, I guess. You know, again, I would just rather it be, I would rather a node and have the node dictate based off of player stuff rather than random game stuff. It's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, I agree. It might make more sense uh, to be able to affect those probabilities. For example, if you don't do certain quests, or if you were not killing mobs in that zone of influence, then as a result this event happened. It makes sense. But if you are Steven who had a bad day and you want to make people suffer, why not? Like there's one simple thing that people need to understand, in my opinion.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how difficult the game is. It only matters who plays it better.
Right.
So, like, I don't know, like if you choose any game, like let's say me and you, we start playing some whatever, like golf, for example, and neither
Mhm.
me nor you uh, played it ever, and whoever loses the game, one of us will die.
Right.
Well, we don't have to be the best in the game. We just need to be better than each other to survive, right?
Right.
And the same logic applies to any game. It can not necessarily be golf. It can be, table tennis or I don't know, whatever, swimming.
Right.
But it doesn't matter how difficult it will be. It only matters who plays it better. So especially as long as it's a competitive game, I don't mean like from the in an esports type,
Right.
but just you're competing with other players for power, for domination, for the resources, for other stuff.
I will say this though. I think there is environmental stuff you can do to a node to lock certain systems out. Like as an example, if you're in the Riverlands and you're in the Merilith node, and let's say an environmental event happens where it's like a tornado,
Mhm.
and every NPC that's in Merilith, like you have the processor NPC, the crafting NPC, literally goes inside of a building. Like they go out of their place to go inside a building and they lock the doors, lock the windows, And now Marileth is not going to de-level or anything, but you can't access anything in Marileth because they're all trying to barricade themselves inside the buildings. That would be cool. Like, I am all down for an
And
event actually locking certain things down. What's up?
and when you're in the node, you also have to wear the mask, right? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that too. I mean, I think again, there's could be certain environmental things that would make sense, and again, I'm all for certain systems being down, but I'm not for the node de-leveling due to an event of some kind. I think again, even if it was a dragon that was flying overhead, it would be really freaking cool to see NPCs running around the town hysterically. You have some people barricading yourself. You have, let's say, the processor NPC behind a barrel, like with his hands on his head, and he can't help you. Like all he does when you click on him is he's just shuddering with fear. So he can't help you with the processing. That would be cool because again,
that sounds like Game of Thrones season
yeah,
8,
heck
but
yeah.
of a healthy person. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, there's so many cool things. And again, the reason why I love Intrepid is because they're all gamers. Like when I get in Discord, I'm talking to all of the people that have played MMOs. We come up with some amazing ideas for our favorite MMORPG that we're playing. And I feel like that's exactly what Steven and their powwow meetings at Intrepid, that's exactly what they do. They're like, what can we do to this system that is actually fun and that could actually create player intrigue or just a unique factor, right? Because what MMO has ever done something like that, where there's like a dragon breathing fire right outside the node gates or a castle gates? All of the freaking NPCs in there in any other MMO would just stand there like, it's fine day, everything's cool. But if you had a node where everybody's just running around hysterically, that's no other MMO does that. So
no, that's really interesting, and that's also another cool thing about like Steven and all this uh, idea is the fact that they are not limited by anyone and anything. Well, time and money, of course, but
right.
to a degree. But still, when it comes to imagination, they can do anything. They're not limited by some data whatever department who will say like, oh, we made a new research, we like the percentage of casual players increased by 3.5%, we need to remove the PvP. No, they can do whatever they want, and that's the beauty of it.
Yep.
And
It's all based on their passion at the end of the day.
yep,
And that's
yep,
what
yep.
Blizzard was known for back in that time. It was just a bunch of gamers that decided to make a game because they were playing EverQuest and they're like, we can make a game we think that's better than EverQuest. And that's what created World of Warcraft. And again, you look at Steven saying like, oh, I have played Lineage 2 for a long time. I think I can make an MMO better than Lineage 2. That's still off of its core principles. And again, I hope they succeed. Like we've already been talking for over an hour. So is there anything else you want to talk about before we get off? Any other burning questions or anything that you'd want to talk about? If not, then we'll wrap it up. It's cool.
Well, basically, I don't know. There's still people listening. What
Oh,
I
we're gonna
wanted to
do an
say
after
is,
show. We're gonna do an after show.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
Yeah,
stick around
so
if you're still watching. Stick around. We're still
yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
here.
yeah. So those who are following Ashes of Creation, don't worry about the things that has not happened yet, because the majority of things that you worry about in life never actually happen. So, you know, watch the streams, wait for the alpha. A lot of things that you worry about now will be fixed in alpha 2, betas, etc. And just enjoy it, because at some point um, at some point in time, the game will be released, and every day that you live brings you one day closer to that moment. So,
Well said, dude.
yeah.
Because I've been taking it one day at a time myself because I am dying
Yeah,
to play a new MMO so bad.
yeah, the problem is there's no way to put yourself for a specific amount of time, in a coma to wake up during the release.
Yeah,
So,
true.
I mean,
I mean, my wife's a
that
nurse practitioner. I mean, she probably could put me in a medically induced coma, but I don't want to risk it. It's like, I just don't want to risk it. Dude, Flanker, dude, thank you so much for coming on, chatting Ashes. Welcome to the Ashes community, dude, as far as content creation goes. Flanker, where can people find you?
People can find me at this point on YouTube.
Okay.
I guess there will be link in some
Yep.
description or
There will
yeah,
definitely be
but
a
it's
link in the description.
basically yeah, it's basically Flanker AOC,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
the name tag on YouTube.
All right. Well, like I said, there will be a link in the description, guys. So go watch his videos, subscribe. He's an OG Lineage 2 player turned Ashes. So it's definitely going to be great. Guys, like the video if you like the video, subscribe for more 1v1 content, and we will see you guys on the next one. Later, guys. All right. That's it. That's the end of the YouTube
How was
video.
it?
Oh, it was good, dude.
Like,
I thought it was a great conversation. I don't know if chat loved it, but
I
I sure
enjoyed
as hell
it.
did.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll make sure to read the comments.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be
And
great.
if there's a comment that I don't like, I will find you. Just so you know.
Well, so I mean, I don't know, man. I think there's going to be a lot of really cool things, and this is why I'm so excited for Ashes, is because I think people have been so templated with the current MMO design. Like seriously, like it's so crazy how people go to like play other games, and it feels like you're playing the same MMO with just a different aesthetic, right?
True.
And I think Ashes is just going to be that game that is literally beautiful graphics. Like, I mean, every time I see the game, it just looks so nice. And people always talk about like, oh, Ashes needs a better art direction, or Ashes needs like a stylized approach, and da da da. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Shut the fuck up. Like seriously.
yeah,
You're not gonna be like I'm sorry. Well, I'm not
no, it's so funny.
I'm
It's
not
good.
gonna lie, so I'm not sorry.
Yeah,
But like do not you're asking for like too much because I like that pissed me off at some point because I saw a person like meaning no offense to that person. It's just I'm not talking about that person specifically, but
yeah. There's
about the
been
whole
many
trend.
people. Yeah,
Yeah. So someone was asking like, um, will NPCs in the nodes have different outfits in when it's like different seasons. And I'm like, what? Like, like seriously, if there was a list of things that Ashes, Intrepid has to do,
right.
sorted by the priority, it's gonna be number 5,700 whatever.
If that.
Nobody would care about it. This thing will not bring more players to the
Right.
game.
Right.
It will not help them, it will not help to retain them. And
Right.
there is like a million other things that they have to be working on that are far more important, like, combat, um, gathering, crafting, nodes, sieges, and
Yeah.
people are just like I feel that to a degree it comes from boredom because they are bored, they can't
Yeah.
they
A
can't handle
100%
waiting, and they're like, "I want
to
a
complain.
McDonald's in Ashes of Creation," or something like that, and they just go crazy. Like waiting is easy and difficult at the same time. Easy because you don't have to do anything, and difficult is because there's nothing you can do. And
And
yeah, just
and I think they have
do it.
plenty of time to work on the finer details. Like, and again, like this is a team that is very passionate, that really wants this game to feel like a living, breathing world. If they don't do all of those things at launch, there's gonna be patches, guys. It's not like we're gonna get the launch of the game and then that's it. No patches, no expansions. What we made is what y'all get. That's it. That we're done.
And
That's not the thing.
the funny thing is when the same people say like game in development 7 years, still alpha 2, yeah, keep making those great suggestions.
Yeah.
Write 10 of them every day, and you're gonna yeah,
Well.
it just like doesn't make sense. Sometimes when I don't like I actually don't know what I'm doing that. I have to think about it.
Mhm,
But I opened the comments under the Ashes of Creation video, and
mhm.
um I'm looking for those comments who say like, "Oh, game dead on arrival," that kind of stuff, that kind of garbage. And I'm like listening, and I mean reading them,
Right.
and I'm like, and I'm just, it's not that I'm reading to disagree with it necessarily or something like that, but I'm reading and I'm just trying to imagine what kind of person would write that. Like, for example, there is a game that you don't like. Maybe you watched the video, maybe you didn't. but you
Right.
still dedicate your time to write something like, "Oh, the game is shit," you know?
Right.
Like,
I
seriously? For example, I never played WoW, right? And I will never play it because I just don't like it. Like, it's not a game for me, and I totally understand that.
right.
And I can't imagine myself opening some, video and writing like, "Oh, this game is shit because I don't like it." You know?
Right. It's like
Like, it doesn't make sense.
I've never
Uh,
played BDO. I've literally I've downloaded and I bought BDO. I bought it for like $6. It was like on sale on Steam at
you
one point. And I just did it for the character creator because I really wanted to see how in depth this character creator was. And I really love the character creator. And there was a whole video I made way back. It was like a year and a half ago. I made this video basically talking about, how BDO has a market kind of thing. It's like I forget what they call it, but it's like you can submit your creation to the market and then you can literally click on the market for the character creator and go through all of like you can like look at Michael Jackson, like porn stars, whatever, right? That
mm,
whatever you want to look like, a person already created it, and you could use that as a template for your player created character. And I thought this is really neat. The fact that
mm,
again, think of it like a person could create Steven, in the Ashes of Creation content creator or in a character creator, and people can use that template of Steven as their character, and I think that's really
that's
cool, like, and again, Ashes is going to have something like that because if you look at their character creator, there is like a kind of save template and then a thing where you can actually send that template to another person, which I think is really interesting. Um,
it's
but
interesting because when I found out, like, how many questions there are about character creator, I'm like, "What?" Like, are there actually so many people who care about it? Because
dude,
personally, I don't
yes,
really care about it.
I don't
But I
care
was
about it
like,
either, but there are a ton of people who
yeah.
do.
Yeah, and I'm
Ton.
like, "Oh, okay. Every day you learn something new." And, you said you never played BDO?
No, I don't, it doesn't appeal to me. Like I literally had tried it for the first couple
No.
of levels and I'm like, I just don't like the game. Like it I think first impressions are very powerful because again, if this is what the game's going to transform into, I'm okay. This is just not my kind of game. And I think even for New World, when I played New World for the professions, I was like, I like the professions. I can, I have some problems and issues with them, but I was like, this is actually a pretty cool profession system, gathering system and everything. But the game overall didn't appeal to me to stick it out. You know what I mean? And that's fine. I don't go
Absolutely.
to New World videos and talk shit about New World, like, oh, New World's dead on arrival, or BDO, like, no one plays BDO. It's like, no, there's definitely people who play New World. There's definitely people who play BDO. I just don't understand the mindset of being that kind of commenter and going onto a space that you don't even want to be in and then just talk shit about it. It's like, are you literally that bored of your time where you literally are just commenting on people's videos to just be a troll? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
bro.
yeah. You didn't play BDO, but did you play BDSM?
Dude, some of the character creators in that is pretty much BDSM. It's freaking wild. Like the
Yeah,
stuff you can do on
yeah,
BDO.
because, actually, I was surprised that we, spoke about Ashes of Creation today, because I thought you had different, idea in mind when you said, like, "Hey, flanker, we're gonna, turn on our webcams and have some fun," you know?
Well, there is going to be an after show, but chat's not going to see
Oh, yeah,
that. So,
for yeah, we're gonna go from Twitch to, like, OnlyFans, you know?
oh yes, you can go to Vlad Daddy or onlyfans.com/Vlad Daddy. Yeah, that's my OnlyFans, but that's a whole other stream. So you have to kind of tune in, but you got to pay for that. Sorry, guys. Um, but no, honestly, like I think the whole template of MMORPGs is just so outdated and it's just dull. And I am so grateful that Ashes of Creation is actually going with an older design because, of course, Lineage 2, Arcade, these are games that were done back in like 2002. I think Arcade came out 2001 or 2002. It was like my freshman year of high school. And then Lineage 2 came out, what, in 2004 or 2005? I can't remember when
I can
Lineage
remember
2.
as well,
It
around
was
that
like,
time, like
yeah, 2004.
2004, 2006, maybe
I
around
think it
that.
came out literally like when World of Warcraft came out. I think.
I
Um,
believe it was Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, so I'm
It
not
was
gonna
just
say.
around that time, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And all I'm saying is that I think it's just really good. And this is again, like I don't know what Amazon is going to do with the Lord of the Rings MMO that they're going to create, but
I'm not sure that I want to know, to be
I
honest.
I don't. Oh my god, dude! And I have, dude. I don't know if Roar's still in chat, but I have a lot of friends who deeply love Middle Earth that have, Lord of the Rings is such a beloved property. And what they did recently with the Rings of Fire or the Rings of Power, I think it was called on
Oh,
Amazon,
no, no.
the show that they released. And then of course just what Amazon done to New World, it's like I don't have the faith just because it's Lord of the Rings that they're going to do a good job. Like I just think they're, and I honestly feel like this is another thing too. They're going to force them to use Lumberyard as an engine. And that will be, to me, if I hear, and I'm going to say this right now, if I hear AGS is going to force their devs to use Lumberyard for Lord of the Rings online or their new MMO, I'm not even going to care about that game at all.
Fair enough. Can't blame me for that.
I've just heard so many devs talk crap about that system or that engine even now. Like it's just such a crap engine to use. Like it's so bad. Like, and that's why they had so many issues with the launch of New World and like the whole spaghetti code, the auction house breaking over and over and over again, quests, just everything was just terrible because of how badly, as a designer, to use that engine, it's so much of a process comparatively to like Unity and Unreal Engine. Like Unreal Engine just has a better way to process and a better way to design than Lumberyard does. So
That sounds. Oh,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
no,
That
it's
sounds like that sounds like king shaming. Maybe they just like to suffer, you know?
I don't know. It's really bad. I don't know. For me personally, like I just want a different kind of MMO. And I think just so many AAA studios that are afraid to go outside of the WoW box because they know, oh, WoW's successful, let's just do that. And even I don't know if we didn't even talk about Ghost Crawler's MMO. Ghost. I don't know if you heard about it. It's the code name Ghost right now. It's not the real name
Mhm.
of the MMO. But Ghost Crawler was a developer from World of Warcraft who's making his own MMORPG. He was actually the lead game designer for Riot in creating the Riot MMO, but then he left Riot to go start his new studio or his own studio and then make his own MMORPG. I just don't really. Have you? First of all, have you even heard about that MMO?
Fortunately or
No.
fortunately, no.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
It's again, I'm not trying to talk crap about it because it's still very early in development, but their concept didn't sell me. Like I haven't
Mhm.
been sold on the concept of Ghost because it's very instance based. You're going to have a red shard and a blue shard. Everything is literally all instance. It screams convenience. It screams again you being that person with 1 hour of time and
Mhm.
being very pop in pop out kind of gameplay loop. It's just something that I don't really care about personally.
Yeah, I don't like that either, but there are people who are, so same as we say for Ashes of Creation, it's not a game for everyone. Yes, the same logic applies there.
Yeah,
And the thing is, what you said about MMOs in general, that they're literally like, copy paste,
yeah,
that's the reason why I never watch, some Marvel or DC movies, like basically the superhero stuff, because
right,
they're all always like, and a lot of people will start screaming at me now and threatening me for saying that, but they're all literally the same. The plot is the same.
right,
There is a superhero, something bad happens, there's a villain, they start fighting, villain is very strong, so he almost wins,
right.
but then in the end there is a plot twist and everything is fine,
Yeah,
and the
everything works
hero
out.
wins.
Yeah,
Like 95% of the movies are the same. Like, I watched one, I don't need to watch 50 others. I
right,
understand the idea. And I feel like it's very similar to what you said about, MMOs. They're very similar. The graphics may be different. It may be like not 18th century but 22nd century. But everything is the same. Like there is a dungeon, there is, a little bit PvP, a little bit of some crafting, some, go gather
rain.
10 cockroaches, go craft 10 cockroaches, etc. And that's it. Like
Yeah,
what's what's the word for it in English? Your unique trade offer or something like that. What's unique about your game?
Right.
Like,
Like what stands
or,
out from it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What stands out? And it's not like necessarily something like one feature that no other game has.
Right.
Uh, it has to be just maybe it is a combination of features that you
Yeah.
can't find in
In a
another game, but those like every single one of those features are like exist in other games, but the combination of them doesn't. You know,
oh
uh,
yeah.
eh,
And even just having a naval system in Ashes, like when I tell people that there's gonna be a full blown naval system with like boats, ships, and galleons, and people are like, really? Because what other MMO currently has like like you can go and sail the seas? Like, you know, if you're gonna play
yeah,
Sea of Thieves, that's what that game is, but that game sadly isn't an MMORPG. But the fact that a brand new MMO is coming out that actually has a naval system already is attractive. And then when I tell people, oh well, it's also going to have a node system, and they're like, oh, what's that? Like, because a node system isn't really a popular term, and it's very much like an unknown factor of Ashes.
yeah,
But when you explain the node system to people, like they're like, wow, that sounds really
yeah,
cool, like very interesting. And I've sold a lot of my friends that aren't even RPG players or MMORPG players like the game based off of just of these two systems, the fact that there's gonna be a naval system and the node system. And then they ask questions about like, well, is it gonna have other kind of typical MMO tropes? And I'm like, yeah, it's gonna have dungeons, it's gonna have world bosses, it's gonna have this, it's gonna have that. But it's just like you said, it has a unique array of systems that
true,
current
true.
MMOs just don't have together. Like you'll have one MMO that has naval but doesn't have these other things, or you have, you know, these other MMOs that have like, again, just they're very copy pasta at this point.
True.
Let me see. They key the key with Ashes is the concern about maintaining the world once it gets started. So many areas, unique features. I worry about them getting overwhelmed with so many niche elements. I think with the and I this actually
True.
used to be a concern of mine, to be totally honest with you. The fact of how niche certain systems are. Like there's going to be a religion system. There's going to be a highway or the highwayman system.
Highwayman.
There's going to be the bounty hunter system. There's going to
Yeah,
be
social organizations,
yeah,
something like
social
that.
organizations. There's going to be so many unique niche things that a lot of MMO players just haven't heard of. But again, I feel like as long as they do the greatest hits well, which is leveling, classes, combat,
On the
everything else. Like I feel like as long as they do the core MMO features well, they can withstand adding some niche features too. Because I think
True.
it's also taverns is a unique feature too. There's not many MMOs that have taverns that are going to have parlor games and are going to have music and stuff like that. Like it's going to be very unique. You know what I mean? So I think again, there's two things that Intrepid needs to knock out of the park. It can't just be good, it has to be great. One being combat and the second being classes. If the classes are great and if the combat is great, I feel like that's going to be
like 80% of success. True,
yes,
true.
100%. Because people, like every person I talk to, just has such a fascination with classes. They want class design to be good. And I feel like there's also a lot of portion of people that only ever talk about MMO combat. They're like, if the MMO combat's terrible, I'm not going to stick around. It doesn't matter how great the story is. It doesn't matter how great the leveling experience is. If the combat is shit, I am probably not going to play that game.
The thing is, yeah, when it comes to combat, both PvP and PvE players experience that. So that's why it's critically important, crucially important, right?
Oh
That's the
yeah.
correct word for it.
Yep.
So, because if there are dungeons and there is something wrong with dungeons, PvP players don't care. Crafters maybe don't care. Gatherers don't care. It's only PvE players who will care. But when it
Right.
comes to combat, everyone is affected. So
Everyone.
that's why it's yeah.
Yeah. And this is again the thing I've always talked about with class design too, because that's the first choice you make in this game is what class do you want to play? So the class design to me is so imperative to it's like a permanent decision, right? Like if I'm going to be a mage, that's what I'm going to be. Like if I want to be
Yep.
something else, like I have to start all over. You know what I mean? So the class design has to be great and it has to be fun. And I think once everything starts getting complemented, like when the combat is really good, especially at the lower levels, I feel like a lot of MMOs, the combat's like WoW to me is so terrible in the early game because you don't have that many abilities, right? You have like one or two or three abilities that you're basically playing with for like the first 20 something levels. And those abilities are just very boring to use. Like they're not fun. Like they don't add any kind of flavor or any kind of like again, you're always looking forward to getting like past a certain threshold so you can actually start experiencing a better a better combat, a better ability or something like that. So I think it's not only the end game that is very crucial, it's also the intro because that's your first experience. You know what I mean? It's like again, playing BDO. I'm not saying that combat in BDO is terrible, but I think just like when you start off, right? Like if the combat isn't fun at level 1 or level 5, why are people going to stick around? You know what I mean? Like, and again, there's
True.
some people who again have that expectation or that opinion. I'm not saying I do, but I just think it's important.
Absolutely, because those first, you know, first hour, first 2 hours, first couple of hours, basically, are important because that's when, I guess, that's when a very high. Hang on. That's when the bounce rate is happening. Because if you just logged in, you walked out of the node and got killed 3 times in 5 minutes by some, random player, then probably you won't like it. I mean, some people
Right.
will get angry and like, okay, I'm gonna take it seriously and I'm gonna do something because I want that guy uh, to punish him. But
Mhm.
some people will just, what is this game? Like, why am I being, griefed or something?
Right.
Um, I'll go play some, I don't know, CS:GO, you know. But yeah, it's important. It's necessary to for the game to be, like, not hardcore from level one, because we
No.
need it has to be like a, a quicksand or a swamp. You step in and then you're slowly drowning and then you can't do anything. So that would be the right
I for me,
approach.
the first initial like if I can say an emotion that you should experience when you start an MMO is fun. Like it has to be fun. Because I feel like a lot of times in MMOs, it always feels like work. Like leveling is work. Like
Or
grinding or
maybe
questing.
or maybe curiosity, also a
Or
good
yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you're in a brand new world. Like it's very you're curious. Like oh my god, I want to go out and explore. Want to do things and stuff like that. But I feel like having fun should be the primary reason of you playing a game. Playing a game in general when you were a kid had to be fun. If a game wasn't fun, you didn't want to play it as a kid. And I feel like again, there's so many games that feel like a chore, that feel like a job basically. Like they don't the fun has been completely sucked out of it. And it's just a rotation of things that you do in order to achieve a goal, but achieving that goal isn't meaningful. It didn't provide you any value. It wasn't even fun, but now you can say you've done it. And it's just like,
Yeah,
why?
it's like putting a tick,
Yeah, just
like tick in the box.
little
Yeah.
little checkbox and stuff. Let me see. But here's a question: when will we stop thinking of players as either PVEers and PvPers, and see AOC players as PvXers? Can a player be that well-rounded in AOC? Oh, I mean, I think you can probably speak to this more than I can.
I guess you absolutely can. Um, I mean, PvP and PvE will be connected in Ashes of Creation. So most likely you will not be forced to do both, but most likely you will end up doing both. Because of course, if someone is attacking you, the world is like 1,200 square kilometers, so you can go anywhere and chill there alone. But sometimes you will have to fight back. Sometimes it will make sense to fight back, and those two will be connected, especially taking into account the fact that 80% of the content is open world. Because it was very funny, like there is Underrealm and Ashes of Creation, and in Lineage 2 those were catacombs. So you just go underground and there's like, basically catacombs with rooms and mobs. And if the location is good, then every single room, maybe occupied. And usually you're just if you come there and you start killing mobs, the guy will come to you and say like, "Hey, bro, it's occupied. I'm farming it. Go find another room."
Right.
And sometimes you will, and sometimes you like check all those rooms, and you see that all of them like there is no free spot, and you're like, "Okay, there are 10 people here. Which one of them can be like which one of them can I kill
Yeah,
actually?"
right.
You know? Yeah. And yeah, so it will be maybe not like absolutely the same in Ashes of Creation, but probably very similar to that because there will be inevitably hunting grounds and farming spots that are better than the others. And if they're
Right.
better than the others, then people will know about it and they will try to go there.
Right.
So yeah, conflicts are inevitable and it's not a bad thing.
Right. And
But even if it's something you don't like, there is always an option. You could go anywhere else. The world is huge. It's not New World. It's not like it's is it actually like the biggest map when it comes to MMOs
it it is
or
definitely
something very close to that?
it either is the biggest or one of the biggest. I mean, again, I haven't heard of an MMO currently being 1,200 squared kilometers with their base land masses, right? Without it
Yeah.
talking about expansions and stuff like that, right? Like, it's quite
Yeah.
crazy how big the world is going to be. But again, this is a game too where it promotes grouping. There's so many
Sure.
MMOs that it's just a single player game at the end of the day. Like you're never incentivized to group up only for dungeons or raids. But questing is a solo endeavor. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not trying to discourage solo gameplay. I think solo play is important. But I think in Ashes, it should be harder to quest by yourself than it is to quest in a group, of course, right? And I think there's going to be unique experiences in you being with other people because there's also going to be um unique benefits to being in a group because again, you're not by yourself. So if there are any PvPers lurking around wanting to do combat, they may not be as willing if you see yourself with two other people compared to you just being by yourself, right?
Sure.
So having, safety in numbers is definitely a benefit in Ashes of Creation. And I think also the group experience bonus is actually a really nice touch because in most MMOs, they basically have your experience being in a group, and I really hope they don't do that in Ashes. And again,
They won't. They
yeah,
won't.
I really hope they don't because and again, if it is like the most efficient way to level in Ashes is to be in a group, then so be it. Because you know what the most efficient way to level in every other MMO is to do it by yourself. So why can't we have a fucking game where you have to be able to be in a group? Or again, that's the most efficient way to level, right? Not saying it's again, you can do it by yourself, but it's better, it's more efficient or whatever to just do it in a group. And I don't mind that. Again, it's just again like I think playing with friends, especially in an MMO, is so critical and crucial to the overall enjoyment of a game. Because and I've said this many times, the Thursday poker night with the boys, right? Poker in itself, it's an okay game, but it's just so much better when you're playing it with like 5 year buddies. You know what I mean? The conversations, the dialogue, the drama, or whatever, right? The gambling that can go on. It's just so much more fun if you're just playing, you know,
Mhm.
with just by yourself or one other person, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there will be a lot of benefits for playing in a group, and that's actually my plan, at least at this point. Probably it's not gonna be on the Alpha 2, but on launch, I want to have a static group, like
Oh yeah,
100% of
same.
people that I can rely on, and people who can rely on me because there's just so many benefits that like as someone who tries to make as many rational decisions as possible, I just can't ignore like I can't play solo because I will like there will be a thought in my mind that what you're doing can be achieved faster or you know it's just not the best way to do that. But the thing is, wait, there was something else that I wanted to say, and of course I forgot it like literally a second ago. God damn it.
It's okay.
Yeah,
It
like
happens to me all the time.
a simple example, if grinding to like from 1 to 50 takes like 250 hours for example, right?
Right.
And if you're playing solo, there's a certain amount of times you will die, coming to a new area, AFKing and dying from random mobs, someone killing you, etc., etc. If you compare XPing for those 250 hours solo and with a group where you actually have a cleric who can also revive you every single time and restore some XP, it will be much faster. Like you will not notice it if you just XPing for 1 day.
Right.
But when it comes to 250 hours, the difference will be massive. It's gonna be hours or days, maybe even. So yeah,
Yeah.
because losing those uh 2-3% of XP on level 46 may be painful.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
and was there de-leveling in Lineage 2?
Yes, there was the leveling, and it was even more
Fuck that.
painful. So, for example,
Fuck that.
there were different grades of the armor, so like D grade, C grade, B grade, A grade, S grade, and you could wear them on a certain level. So, for example, uh, you could wear A grade items on level 61, and you're like reaching level 61. You already have a set, A grade set, and then you die and you are back to level 60 and you already sold your gear, the previous one, and you're
Oh
like,
my god.
yeah, I had that once and I was
No
like, I
way.
am an idiot. Yeah.
Oh god. So wait a minute. If you hit max level in Lineage 2, can you de-level?
Yes.
Wait a minute. So you still had to gain experience at max level to make sure you don't de-level? Is that how it
Now,
works?
so it depends on the patch, but when I played it, the level cap was 85, and when you reach that level, you keep getting XP till the moment when it's 85, level 85 and 100%. But if you die, of course, you will lose 1% of XP. So yeah,
Wow.
and
That is
some people,
nuts.
nah, some people actually used it
Wow.
because, for example, there was a class that you know was good with party buffs, group buffs,
Right.
and there was a low level dungeon, so people will power level that buffer to level 78 and then de-level him 10 levels to level 68 because that's when it's possible to enter the dungeon, the low level dungeon,
Right.
and have those high level buffs in low level dungeon because it allows them to actually complete it faster. Because
Wow.
if there was a ten level difference, then your skills like were not affected. But if it's going to be 11, the skills will disappear. So that was the restriction. So people
See,
had different strategies.
I'm all for experience debt. I'm not saying I'm all for it, but I'm okay with it now. If
Mhm.
Ashes was going to have a de-leveling system, I probably would not be even a content creator for this game. I'd be like, nope, sorry, can't do it.
What bothers you?
I just
You don't like achieving something and then have a feeling that something that you have achieved has been taken from you.
yes,
Is that a
but I feel like levels like are like you've reached that level, like you should just be that level. Like I don't know. The de-leveling thing for me just it doesn't. And maybe it's my WoW brain. Maybe it's that. I don't know. But I feel like playing or doing raiding and like doing a raid boss and dying like 40 times and then de-leveling because we couldn't kill the world boss or not like a boss in a raid like just seems so disgusting to me that I would have to like redo the level again. Like it doesn't compute in my brain. Like I just don't want it. But again, there isn't de-leveling in Ashes. Thank God. There is
no.
not experience loss per se, but they said experience debt. I don't know exactly what the difference is. Because to me, I see experience debt as being experience loss. It's just another term for it. But I don't know. The way Steven describes it is that it's not the same. And I've heard if I go to the wiki, I'm pretty sure I can find when he talks about experience debt. But either way,
Yeah, it's not that big of a difference, but yeah, I understand that. But I remember those good old days when early days of Lineage 2, first castle sieges, and there was back then you were still getting death penalty and that XP loss when you died on the battlefield. So even though it was a PvP zone,
right.
and people were like, and the sieges were once in 2 weeks, so every 14 days. So people were grinding for 14 days, then going to castle siege and losing. Like some people lost the XP that they've been grinding for this 2 weeks, because it was
Golly, dude.
unlucky. Can you imagine? The
No.
people
No,
who
I can't.
survived that, like, nothing in this world can break them because they're so
Wow.
mentally stable, the
That's
stress
crazy.
resistance level of losing something that you were working for, 2 weeks is insane.
Yeah, that's the
I
perseverance
don't
on
know,
those people isn't
yeah,
crazy.
it's like I don't know, it's like playing Rust, for example. I never played Rust, but I understand
Oh
the
yeah, there's a
basics
lot
of
of
it.
loss and rust.
Y yeah.
It's crazy. Um, it's already gonna be a 9 o'clock my time, flanker. I'm
Well,
sure it's really early or late or whatever, but I just want to say first off, you thank you so much for coming on, especially you being all the way, across the world, and just talking ashes. Like I really, really appreciated you. Thank you so much. I hope you had a great time just
Yep,
chatting
yep,
ashes
I
and
really did.
talking and stuff like that. But guys, um, I of course I linked his video. I can try to link it again.
Mhm.
Um, go subscribe to his content. uh he's a good dude. I think he's making great content for the community. I'm really curious to see what other video ideas you have in the future, man. I would say any kind of
Um,
advice I would say is don't get discouraged with views. Just give your opinion out, let it, because again, Steven sees so much Ash's videos, it's insane. So if you're wanting to make videos because you want to try to give your opinion, on this game that maybe the devs can hear, then you're already succeeding because I'm pretty sure they probably already watched your video. So just don't give up. Keep making content.
yeah, I know it's all about consistency. I used to do that, so I know
Yeah,
the drill. So, yeah, thank you for having me. It was nice talking to you, and I'm not saying that as a formality. It really was. Um, yep.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Well, guys, we're gonna get off. You guys have a great rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend and be safe. I will see you guys later.
Good luck. Goodbye.